Hello, everybody. My name's Ivan Penaluna.
I'm Eric Amber.
And on today's show,
Pope Francis, tear down these walls.
Oh, you guys like to tell jokes and giggle and kid around, huh? Giggling like a bunch of young broads in a schoolyard. Well, let me tell a joke.
I wanted this to be professional.
I don't gotta listen to this shit.
You certainly don't, pal. Because the good news is... Awesome!
With Byron Bertram and Ivan Penaluna.
Okay, so this is the story about Pope Francis getting into it with the thumper. This is Pope 2.0 getting into it with Donald Trump over it's a Twitter battle, really, wasn't it, essentially? And this all came out of comments that the Pope made about the proposed wall that's going to be built in between Mexico and the US. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, basically he was in Mexico. Pope Francis was in Mexico, and he's meeting and greeting, slapping palms. And he went right to the heart of a controversial subject and criticized Donald Trump for even considering building a wall across the, America and Mexico.
But he went further than that, didn't he?
And what do you mean? Like he attacked Donald Trump? Oh no,
well, he questioned Donald Trump's religious integrity.
That's true.
For want of a better expression.
Okay, you know what? To his credit, I'm not sure if Donald Trump is a Christian.
Oh, I can tell you right now. Listen, Donald Trump, right, he's got hardly any policies. He's definitely not a Christian, right? I think he would admit that himself. But what he is he's the king of the comeback. And This is where, Pope 2.0 bit off more than he could chew, because Donald Trump came back with just 9 words that destroyed the argument. And these 9 words that he issued were, when ISIS come to Rome, you're going to pray I'm president. And I think, you know what? That just nails the point home. Just, cut through the gristle, cut through all the shit, all the carefully crafted words and arguments. That just brings it home. Because if you've got ISIS basically executing people on the beaches of Libya, it's a short boat ride over to Italy. And Pope Francis knows that, Donald Trump knows that, but who's going to actually recognize that point and nail it home as part of their argument? It's the thumper.
Well, it's true, because basically the Pope isn't addressing any of the immigration nightmares that America's having right now, right? So Donald is like, look, I know what to do. We'll build a wall and then we'll stop illegal immigration, right? That was his solution to a problem. But of course, the Pope decides to get in there and he says, you know what, walls divide people. They don't, we need to build bridges, not walls, right? And so that's, that was
his analogy.
He was trying to be clever and go, you know what? No, let's all build bridges instead of walls. And meanwhile, Donald Trump is pointing out the fact that, listen, we've got a massive safety problem here. You guys built your walls, 1,400 years ago, the walls of Vatican City, that are 200 feet high.
Well, that's a very good point. And this is what people on the internet have been pointing out since then. If you look at the Vatican City, it's surrounded by a massive wall. Hence the title, Pope Francis, tear down these walls.
And you know what? Vatican doesn't take in immigrants.
No, sure. They did take in a couple of families and gave them somewhere to live.
A couple families.
Couple of families, yeah.
It's like putting somebody up for the weekend.
But more to the point, I think the real point about this is that Pope Francis talks about walls and bridges and that sort of thing. And Donald Trump just says, hey, you know what? None of this shit, mate. You've got basically a sea between you and ISIS. And I'm not being funny, but you've got very little to defend yourself from ISIS once this spreads into Europe. And, they've already said we're going to knock on the gates of Rome and we're going to kill the Pope.
It's great publicity, really.
It's fantastic.
Because Fox decided they weren't gonna run any more Trump stories, right?
Because they don't like him anymore.
They don't like him anymore. But so he's just gone. You know what? Fox doesn't want me. They don't want me. They don't want to talk about me. I'm gonna pick a fight with the world's most famous dude.
It's almost like Trump's gone around and says, who the fuck can I punch in the face to get back on TV? Who the fuck? Right, who wants to punch? Pope, come here. How many followers you got? Boom, punch in the face. Right, now talk about me.
Yeah, but Trump didn't start the fight.
No, sure, but he's not shy of a fight.
No, he's not. But the Pope was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a shot at Trump as well.
He should have been better prepared.
I mean, first of all, doesn't Jesus love all of his children? So in theory, Trump is another one of God's children, and maybe he's got a point. But no, the Pope is like, nah, easy target. Everybody hates Trump. I'm going for this. I'm going to take him. I'm going to punch him in the face. But he didn't know who he was fighting with.
Well, and I think also the Pope's remarks were made in a speech in Mexico. So obviously he's pandering to his base too. And
are you saying that the Pope has to pander?
I don't think he has to, but he chooses to for fun and games.
Right. See, that's just it. This Pope is all about pandering. I think he's a pantomime. I think everything about this Pope is fake.
Well, we've discussed this before, and just to remind listeners who haven't heard this, people say, well, what's wrong with the Pope? And I got liberals coming up to me going, oh, we love the new Pope. We love the new Pope.
Thing number one.
Exactly. As soon as liberals start telling me that they like something, I start looking at it, and I start picking that up and smelling it and going, what the fuck is wrong with this new Pope? If liberals like the new Pope, there must be something wrong with it.
There's got to be something wrong.
Got to be something wrong with it. And then all of a sudden, hey presto, he addresses the UN last September and goes, I call for a one world government. And straight away, anybody who's read the Bible goes, no, you fucking don't. Not if you want to be taken seriously as Pope, because the only person who can call for one world government is the false leader and the Antichrist.
Well, that's the other thing. So basically, without getting too far into the book of Revelations, here we got this Pope in Mexico saying, we don't want, America shouldn't be building a wall because that's how else are we going to get all these Mexicans into the United States?
Yeah.
Right? So he's been brought in to speak to the other side.
Sponsored by Carlos Slim.
Yeah. Carlos Slim, not your mother's cigarette? Is that
No, isn't he the Mexican billionaire who makes his money off of all the Mexicans in America buying phone cards to phone home and talk to their relatives? If they're home with their relatives, where is he making his money?
He won't be making the money, and he probably has the business that does the wiring back transfers.
I'm sure he does, and he owns most of the New York Times, too.
But I think it's rich. I think it's rich that this Pope is preaching this one world government / poverty mentality / socialist mentality. They've basically hired this Pope. They've appointed Pope CEO of Jesus Inc. So to sell Catholic poverty.
No, I think you're getting that the wrong way around. I think what he's doing is he says, look, Pope, you've got an audience. How big's your audience, Pope? It's like he's got a podcast, right? And they say, Pope, how big's your audience on your podcast? And he goes, I don't know, 2.1 billion? And they're going, that's fucking great. What we want to do is we want to employ you to put out a message for us. Oh, yeah? What's that message? It's a totalitarian, soft, socialist, fascist regime.
Right.
Oh, right. Fantastic. I'll do that for you. What's in it for me? We're going to make you really popular. You're going to be the best Pope ever. Oh, fantastic. So all you got to do is sell the idea of a one world government, a cashless society, one where everybody does the right thing, that carbon emissions are adhered to, and everybody is put under surveillance, and it's controlled in a rather soft-heeled manner.
Yeah, because as Plato pointed out, the way that you keep utopia going is brutal enforcement.
Well, yeah, or in the case of the EU at the moment, it's the velvet jackboot, as I like to call it.
So we're going back to Catholicism as it was, say, 400 years ago, where they ruled the roost. Everything that they said went. That's what seems like they're just trying to bring it all back together.
A little bit longer than that. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about 1400s? 1400s.
Right, 1400s.
Yeah.
When everything that the Vatican said went.
Yeah, because there was no dissent.
And that's what he's going, that's basically what they're going for.
I don't know. I just think he's being used as a tool. He's being used as a globalist tool to create a one world consensus. I think that's the best way of putting it.
And he's using his war on Twitter.
And I think
it.
And I think that they're using his tradition, this Latin American tradition of liberation theology, which is a much more socialist leaning version of Catholicism, which you'll see in pretty much everything that he says and does. You'll see they're using that brand of Catholicism to do this. Because what you get with liberation theology is not only is it appealing to those people who recognize it as being their version of Catholicism that they recognize, but also it's appealing to other people who kind of like the idea of being a good person, but they're not really comfortable with, Catholicism 1.0. They like the 2.0 that's being sold right now. So they're okay with this. When the Pope says, you know what, it's okay to stick your dick inside a man's ass. Everybody else goes, oh yeah, well, I kind of believe that as well. And so they're like going, well, I like this new Catholicism. So he just says stuff that liberals like. Liberals love it. They lap it up, and then, he can sell this bigger idea to more than the 1.7 billion or whatever that he does already.
And also then the liberals don't have to, when he has those sound bites, they don't have to actually read the book. It's a lot like what you see, this discussion with my brother the other day about Buddhism. If you actually get into it, there's a lot of stuff in Buddhism that actually expects people to, behave themselves a little better than they do. But your typical, say, Vancouverite guy who just loves the Dalai Lama has never read any of the Dalai Lama's books.
What?
No.
What?
They have
What
them
are
on
you
the
suggesting?
Shelf. My point is just that people will use this stuff as sort of virtue signaling and whatnot. And with the Pope sort of going off on this, now he's cool to be like, yeah, I love Pope Francis, blah, blah, blah. The next thing, and of course, Francis then gets to be more popular, etc. Next thing I'm expecting him to do is a big lecture on yoga and sponsored by
Are you
Bill
saying
Clinton.
that dream catcher I bought from Eagle Feather on a commercial drive is like fake?
I'm sure it's a real dream catcher, but I'm also sure that it's pretty much just there to collect dust unless you actually follow the traditions.
I think it's only, in your case, Eric, it probably only collects dreams that involve sort of like, getting a puncture on your bicycle or having a slight anxiety dream about overboiling the coffee. Not any of the really, really juicy ones that you want it to catch, right?
Yeah,
You might want to burn some sage around and maybe burn a green candle. It'll bring you money, according to Banyan books.
Well, I mean, you know what? The new pope, as far as I'm concerned, is just another one of these. He's selling a brand of Catholicism that is really just commercialized Catholicism.
I think there's a better way to describe it, and that is populist Catholicism.
Populist, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's like, the new Catholic Church is like, you know what? We're not as popular as we used to be, so let's just like rebrand.
Well, imagine, like I was saying before, imagine an incumbent entity that has lots and lots of followers. It's got old and tired in its way that it reaches out and touches and communicates with its followers, and it needs to go through some rebranding. I mean, the world's moved on. We have social media experts and all this sort of stuff, and we have people who can get your message out and can really spin what you're about to a new, vacuous audience out there. And so I think that's what's happening right now. It's got less substance and it's got more front.
And actually, if you think about it, they're doing a pretty good job of sidestepping all the baby, the child molestation and like gotten back into mainstream by attacking Trump or attacking people that like via Twitter.
Trying to look cool. It's kind of like when in the 80s when my grandma tried to pretend that she liked Motley Crue.
The new pope is a scrapper, and he's coming out punching, and people are like, yeah, we like the new pope. Never mind all the other stuff that's happened. This guy's a scrapper. He's on our side.
Yeah, and then Donald Trump walks up and just goes, boom, and punches him right in the face and knocks him on his ass.
Oh, you want a punch, eh?
But
I thought Trump was out of it. This has put Trump back into it. Like you say, Trump's walked around going, fuck it, I'm out of this for a little while. Ted Cruz has, I made a fool of myself. Not everybody loves me anymore. And so he's wandered around the back streets looking for someone to punch. He bumps into the Pope and he just goes, boom! And now all of a sudden he's back on the front page and everybody's listening to him again. It's almost like Trump, whatever he does, and I'll be the first to admit he's got hardly any policies. I don't know how he can run for president without any policies. But the great thing about him is that he just says what everybody's thinking or already knows. He's the guy who's pointing out that the emperor is naked. And people love that, especially when they've been lied to for generations by the sort of politicians that we have in the form of Hillary Clinton, who's just a fucking reptilian liar. That's all she does. I mean, she represents the deep state at its worst.
But the more they attack him, the more powerful he gets.
Yeah.
The more you send bombs his way, he just like grows.
He's like that entity on The Fifth Element. The more the missiles they fire into it, the just bigger it gets.
It's like negativity. He feeds on negativity.
Yeah.
Well, there's a book called Anti-Fragile, and I think the next edition needs to just put Trump's face on the cover. Trump and Ann Coulter.
He feeds on liberal hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what appeals about him.
That's
to
what
me.
everybody loves about him, because the more liberals hate him, the bigger he grows. And this is what's so great about him. It's like you can take all of that energy that liberals can put into hating something, and believe me, they've got fucking loads of it, right? And Donald Trump just eats it up and turns it into positive Donald Trump energy.
It's true. And in a weird way, they're manifesting. Like he is the righteous manifestation of all the liberal hate.
I couldn't put it better myself. And on that note, fucking news.
This is the fucking news.
All right, go. In 5, 4. I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
This is the fucking news.
Fucking thing sucks.
All right. In the fucking news today, let's see here. ISIS have beheaded a 15-year-old Iraqi boy in Mosul for listening to pop music. Ayham Hussein was caught by the ISIS Gestapo for listening to a portable CD player while minding his father's shop in an open-air market. He was tried in a Sharia court and sentenced to death and executed in the public square.
So hang on, he got a fair trial.
Yeah, he got a fair trial. Yeah, he got a Sharia
fair.
trial. So basically, the judge and jury was Allah, and he wasn't impressed. The great Allah just decided that that this poor little 15-year-old Iraqi boy. I mean, this is a heartbreaking story. I did see this story. I saw the pictures of him, and you know what? It breaks your heart. And as Ben Shapiro put it quite succinctly, this is what we're fighting against.
Yeah,
this is what we're fighting against. And I just want to say, you know what? So jokes aside, right? Just want to say, this is not about Muslims. This is about Islam. Islamists are different from Muslims, but this is the work of Islam. This is the work of Islamists. And Islamists, really, there's very little place for them in any society.
What I don't understand is how music has now become. Anything is off. Everything is off limits. What was the name of this kid?
Ayham Hussein.
I'm thinking of Neil Diamond there. I said, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Let me cut that.
Okay. All right. So,
we're keeping it in.
You managed to get a joke out of this. I found this a terrible story. This is the Islamic State. This is the bread and butter of their fruits, to put it another way. These are the fruits of purist Islam. Right. A lot of people don't know this. What's in the...
They refuse to hear it. I mean, I know a lot of my music industry contacts and whatnot are very much the leftists. We need to bring these people here and blah, 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 blah. And people like this went and murdered 89 people at the Eagles of Death Metal show at the Bataclan.
They were called Eagles of Death. They were called Eagles of Death.
You're saying that they asked for
their
it.
attitude was they were the American band that was playing because that was
if you go to a show called
American band.
If you go to a show called Eagles of Death and you don't get killed, then you should be slightly disappointed.
Or to put it another way, which I think we discussed this a little while ago. If you go to a show called the Eagles of Death Metal and you get shot, you can't really complain.
You can't. That's exactly what
That's one way of putting it.
That's the ticket you bought.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a town in Alberta called High River that flooded a few years ago, and everyone was shocked and horrified. And I was like, "This town is called High River."
Yeah,
I thought the shock and horror was more about the gun seizures, but
yeah, they did invade people's houses, and I don't want to make light of this guy's death. It's crazy that there are people being beheaded for listening to music. Children
being beheaded for listening to music. And I mean, and this is the thing that astounds me on all of this, is that if we put this into a 1930s scenario and this was Nazi Germany, people with hindsight would be going, look at this is so terrible. But you can't get any of those people to speak out against this because they go, that's the Islamic State, that's what they do.
No,
all
it's
cultures
crazy.
are equal. All cultures are equal. The culture that produces
Christians
the killing of...
do bad things too.
Oh, I love that one. I always try and help them out. Let me help you out. Lord's Resistance Army. If you're scraping the barrel, looking for Christian groups who do similar things, I'll help you. Let me point you in the right direction. Lord's Resistance Army, Uganda. There's about 400 of them, right? And they kill a few people every once in a while. Okay, they're crazy. They say that they work for Jesus. you've got a point.
No,
you've got a point. But this is not a global movement by any stretch of the imagination, and that's what we're looking at right now.
No, that's the problem with these arguments is just because I don't like Hillary Clinton doesn't mean I would automatically vote for Donald Trump. Right? So this idea that just because I don't like one thing doesn't mean that I'm for another thing, right? I don't think that we should be beheading children and for the music that they listen to, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean I hate all Muslims. But it seems to me that like Islam
is a you buy the ticket and it's a one ticket buys all aspects.
Yeah,
that's what we're being sold.
Yeah, so like
basically you have to put up with this.
And you're
behavior.
told you have to buy the ticket or you're a racist.
You have to buy the ticket or else you're a racist. And then once you buy the ticket, it comes with the Islamists.
No, to be fair, we don't know what that kid was listening to.
That's true. It
Well,
might
That's
have been
very
Justin
true.
Bieber.
But you know what?
Like,
It depends. Can
was
you
he
think
listening
of
to?
anything worthy of a beheading?
Well,
Kesha.
Phil Collins. Definitely Phil Collins.
Now you're being
Kesha.
flippant. I know. But
I'm being flippant. Of course I'm being flippant. Nobody should be killed for what they're listening to. Even though I want to behead half of the fucking idiots on Commercial Drive here for the stupid shit that they listen to, but I don't.
you would never do that.
Because
would
you're
never
a
do that.
civilized human being. Also, because you don't have an army backing you up.
Most
Also, you
people
don't
would
have the mandate from Allah to do that.
Yeah, I don't really care.
And this is the other thing. I was going to touch on this earlier on. This is the thing that people don't realize about Islam. It's like, and I was talking about this the other week. Muhammad basically said, "Oh yeah, Allah just talked to me, and he just said it was okay to marry a 9-year-old girl because guess what? I want to marry a 9-year-old girl."
Right.
And as soon as Muhammad wants to do something, very conveniently, and one of his wives even mentioned this, very conveniently, Allah has a conversation with Muhammad that no one else is privy to and tells Muhammad that it's fine to do what he's thinking of.
Hang on, you know what I just realized?
So what I'm saying is, Muhammad made all this shit up, right? And then managed to somehow sell this and package it all up in this ideology of conquest and death and subjugation, which is Islam.
We've already lived through
everyone who
this time.
questioned him got beheaded, so that kind of helped.
Yeah,
We've already lived through this time. It was called the Salem witch trials that happened in like 200 years ago, and we've already agreed that shit is crazy, right?
Yeah, but we kind of
Except
forgot on that.
The death toll on that was 20 girls, and then it stopped. They kill more than that every day.
Yeah, they
in
burned
Mosul.
women to death for being witches.
Yes, but my point is, it didn't. In terms of I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying there's probably like 15 Salem witch trial equivalents in terms of death toll in Mosul every day, and it's been going on for ages.
Oh, the body count from radical Islam is in the thousands in a day.
Oh yeah,
Or globally. Globally, it's thousands a day. I mean, it doesn't often get reported in the press because guess what? Brown and black lives are not worth as much as white lives when it comes to Islam.
How many people were being beheaded for the music they were listening to when Saddam Hussein was in charge?
I can't imagine many. Because he was a pretty secular and progressive guy in comparison to what they're living under in parts
Saddam
of
Hussein was a progressive guy. Well, there
Absolutely.
you go.
by comparison.
By comparison, Saddam Hussein was the lovely next door neighbor that you borrow a cup of sugar from.
Hey,
Yeah,
he wrote romance novels. How bad could he have been?
I can only imagine what they were like. They probably involved a rose, a mustache, and a very severe shagging.
And unicorns, I think.
Romancing Hussein.
So anyway, what else have we got?
President Obama will visit Cuba next month.
Is he still around?
Sadly, yes, both of them. Anyways,
He's going to visit Raul Castro, is he not?
yes, it'll be the first time a U.S. president has visited Cuba, I think, since 1948. Obama will meet with assorted Cuban dignitaries, regular Cuban people, and he'll have his in-person meeting with his idol, Raul.
Oh, is he going to?
Such a heartthrob.
Is he going to Guantanamo Bay by any chance?
Why would he go there? There's just Americans there.
But he's not going to go and pop in on the American soldiers and then say, "Hi guys, how you doing?"
Like, why would he waste his time?
Why would he
Come
waste
on.
his time with American soldiers?
Well, this is Obama's last year in office, so now the covers are off. He's full communist. He's gone full communist. He's like, I'm a communist. I'm going to Cuba on holiday. You know what? I'm going to visit Raul. I'm a full communist.
He's looking for a holiday home, isn't he? He's hoping that he's going to get a holiday home out of this. Yeah. There's another example of fucked up socialist policies come home to roost. And people will say, "Hey, no, but Cuba would have been a success without American sanctions." Really? They had all that help from the Soviets for so many decades, and it didn't help much.
Exactly.
Anyway, so fuck Obama. Let's not even talk about him. What else you got?
All right. Well, based on the show listings for the History Channel, you might think only inbred white trash are concerned with aliens from outer space. You'd mostly be right. However, the Chinese are working on ending that stereotype. They have relocated 9,000 of their citizens in order to build an enormous radio telescope in Pingtang County in order to search for alien life.
They just made that name up.
Pingtang County. Yeah, it's nice there.
It sounds like something out of a Tom Waits song. You're in Pingtang County, you're smoking an American joint.
That's China. That's China's Area 51.
China's Area 51.
Yeah, it's Area Pingtang.
No, the thing is as well,
it.
for China to move 9,000 people anywhere else in the world, any other country in the world, you imagine Canada, we're going to move 9,000 residents. Like, fuck you are. It's going to take years. In China, they just go, you're moving. Okay, you're moving.
But in China, 9,000 people is like a single apartment block.
Yeah,
well, this is out in the boonies. They each have a shack and like an acre.
Right.
But they did apparently give compensation, which I think was 12,000 yuan. So it worked out to a whopping $1,800 a piece.
Can you buy a house for that?
12,000 cents.
Can you buy a house for that in Pingtang County?
That was not in the article I saw, but they were having to move elsewhere in fairly rural.
All of this to build a radio observatory.
But it will be bigger than the one in Puerto Rico.
So the world's...
Yeah. And that one's in all the James Bond films, so that's big.
So we're talking about the world's largest bowl.
We're talking about the world's largest skate bowl and radio telescope for looking out for various planets. And,
are you sure it's just not one of those like Chinese tourist traps? They're like, come see world's largest bowl with noodle.
Well, when it falls into disrepair, I
guess. It was almost like Byron Bertram was in the room then. That's a sort of joke he'd tell.
Yeah.
Are you channeling his spirit?
I'm trying to channel Byron because we miss him.
His spirit, yeah. He's in Australia being an idiot.
Yeah. He's making some money.
Yeah.
He's making us some Australian dollars.
He keeps having his picture taken with kangaroos.
Selfies?
Yeah.
Anyway, well, you know what? If anyone's going to find aliens, it'll be the Chinese.
Yeah, they'll be under the bed.
Yeah, they'll be like they'll find some aliens, and you know what's going to happen? China will lose all their jobs, and they will go to aliens races.
China losing all its
their
job
turn now.
Yeah,
China losing all its job to alien planets.
Yeah, that's right.
Brilliant. All right.
Ivan, you had something, right?
Oh, I've got... Again, this is a sad story. I don't really want to make a joke out of this, but it's slightly less... Well, it's a lot less sad than the first one about...
It's all gallows humor here
Okay,
anyway.
fair enough. So fuck it. So this story is about a baby dolphin that was found on a beach in Argentina. And unfortunately for the dolphin, the beach was quite full of people enjoying the sun and the sea at the time. And so everybody on the beach decided that they wanted their picture taken with the baby dolphin. So what ensued was a group who gathered around and took turns to have their selfie or their picture taken with the baby dolphin. Now, as you can imagine, with a baby dolphin being kept out of the water for that long, the dolphin did eventually expire and die.
It expired.
It expired. It is a dead dolphin.
Best before date.
It basically, this poor little dolphin, you can go and check it out on RT or wherever else they've got the story. And
they grabbed the dolphin, took some photos with it, and just said, fuck it. They left it on the beach to dry up.
Now, this is going to be contentious, but I think this says more about Argentina than it does baby dolphins.
Right.
Anywhere,
the baby
they're
dolphin
just like
is a
us,
slut.
in other words.
And she was asking for it.
Anywhere where, a load of people on a beach made up of largely adults would decide it was a good idea to keep this baby dolphin. And you've got to remember, the press is full of footage of people rescuing baby dolphins and keeping them wet and putting them back in the water and trying to rescue them. But in Argentina, no, they decided to take it out of the water, pass it around, and in the 10 or 20 minutes that it took to do that, the baby dolphin died, of course.
Of course, but I thought Argentina was a progressive place that voted for popes.
Well, it produces popes. It's got a series of failed sort of like criminal crony elites who've run it under the auspices of being right wing or left wing or a combination of the two.
So just like us, in other words.
It's a banana republic.
But Argentina is the land that they housed all those post World War II Nazis.
Well, yeah, it is home to a lot of post-World War II Nazis. I don't know what bearing that has on the life expectancy of dolphins out of the water on beaches.
No, my point
Germans
is that
love nature.
You know, if anything, Germans and the offspring of Nazis would probably be trying to rescue that dolphin and get it back in the water as soon as possible.
I think Argentinians don't give a shit about anything.
I think that's my point.
They don't give a shit.
I don't think they give a shit. They want their picture taken with a dolphin and they don't give a fuck whether it dies or not.
You know, if it was a baby Maradona...
Well, then they could have kept it out of the water as long as they wanted, and I'd be clapping. Like a seal.
You know what? Fuck Argentina.
All right, so that's it for the news for today. Thank you very much, Pyra.
No problem.
So, as I've told you in the past, I'm a carny. I was a circus kid.
Yeah.
My parents were carnies. I spent the first 10 years of my life basically living in a trailer and traveling across Canada, doing the circus thing, right?
Yeah, you're talking old school shit. You're talking like PNE, the arse end of PNE.
Yeah, Carnival, Midway. But when I was a kid...
Getting ping pong balls into bottles sort of thing.
Yeah, like in the 70s, they were really, really sort of like basic carnival games, right? Like the original carnival, like going back to the early days of carnival games, they had like milk bottles, right? They were basically 3 milk bottles, right? One stacked on 2, right? And they were painted white, right? And you got a softball, old school softball. They weren't official softballs, so they were like a bit off weight, you know, too light to really cause any damage. But you know, of course, what most people probably have figured out at some point is that all the games were rigged, right? They're all rigged. Right, you know, just to give you an example, the milk bottles, like when you demonstrate the milk bottle game, what the sucker doesn't know is that like one of the milk bottles has lead in it. Right, so like,
well, they've poured liquid lead in there.
Well, it's like it's full. It's like it's solid.
Little lead balls.
It's basically the whole bottle is solid.
Right.
Right. So like one's heavy and the other 2 are light. So when you throw the softball, right, the heavy one on top falls over and they fall over. But when I want you to lose, I put the heavy one on the bottom. Do you follow?
Kind of, yeah.
So basically, it's one of those games where, like, the game operator allows the person to win. So just basically, back in the day when people won carnival games, is because it's not because they won. It's because they were allowed to win. Do you understand?
Yep.
That's where the age of the stuffed animal comes along. Right, so like teddy bears, a whole world of teddy bear comes along from that little period in American history when like governors and laws were changed laws so that people had to win prizes, and so like the really cheap ass fucking teddy bear, that prize becomes like the standard prize on the Midway because like they had to let people win shit.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting. So basically what you're saying is, just going back to the lead milk bottle, when you put it on the top, obviously it's going to fall off.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's heavy. But
if I put one on the bottom and I put the light one on the top, you'll knock over 2, but you won't. That lead one won't fall over, so you lose. Okay. Right? Because you have to knock all 3.
Yeah.
Right? Games like that is like really, really simple. It's usually just simple physics issues that allows people to lose or win, right? But people, they don't know that, right? And then along comes these different types of games in the 70s, and you have like water squirting into a clown's mouth. And so it becomes less about the skill and more about like just evening the odds. So now instead of one punter playing against the game, you got one punter playing against 10 other punters for the single prize, right? So the carnies got clever. We're like, well, if we have to give away a prize every time, just have 10 suckers all playing for the same prize, right?
Right.
So it's like dilutes. You just dilute. So it's just like the science of carny is like, or the science of ripping people off.
So, and this is how you developed your worldview, right?
So I spent the first 10 years of my childhood, of my life, in the carnival with my father, right? And my father was like, he basically taught me that everything in life was a scam, right? There's nothing in life that's not a scam, right? You know, all religion, all systems of government. So like, I have a really cynical take on life because basically from the womb, from the get-go, I was taught everything's a scam. There's nothing. Don't believe anybody. Everything's a lie. So I remember being 9 years old. I'm working in, and that was in the way my parents took care of me or babysat me, by putting me in the Carnival Games, right? And I would pick up the carnival. Like one game, I had a magnet. My job was to go around picking up coins off the ground and making change for people. You know, years later, my father told me, I was the only employee he ever had that never came up short, right? Because I was too young to know to steal. Right?
Brilliant.
So
this is when they got to throw pennies, right, and stuff like that.
Dimes and quarters back
right.
in, And in those days, Canada used silver up until 1967 or something like that.
4, I think. 64, 60, or somewhere around there.
So like people, I remember it was a big deal. Like my father he taught me, he's like, always look at the date. Always like pick up the coin and look at the date.
I always do that still. Every once in a while I get some change and I'll be like, fuck, this is 1963 dime.
Yeah, you're like, put that in your drawer. That's solid
put it away,
silver. Yeah,
because that's worth more.
You know, there's something to be said for like the cash system. You know, and that's what the carnival business was. It was cash. We were dealing with cash. Always get the money. That was the slogan of the carnival. Right? Always get the money. Always get your hands on the dough. Right? Always grab the cash. Right? That's the slogan of the carnival. Right? And let them have their baubles and their trinkets. Right? And when I was 9 years old, this is my first sexual experience. I was 9 years old and I was working in one of my father's joints. And there was this guy named Mitch. And Mitch had blonde hair and skinny white jeans and like a flannel shirt and the baseball cap. He was like what you in Canada they call a banger, right? In Australia they call them bogans. You know, I don't know what they call them in the UK, but like basically your trailer trash, right? Mitch was a 40-miler, and which meant that he lived in one of the small towns that we were working in, right? He got a good little summer job working, and so he was like. He was calling people over to come play the games, right? These two girls come over. And they were like definitely teenagers, probably 15, 16 years old. And they wanted a teddy bear. And Mitch was like, yeah, well, you can play here, play here and, win a prize. And like, they didn't have any money. So, of course, I'm able to piece together what happened in after the fact. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on.
Right. And how old was Mitch?
Mitch is like 17. He must have been 17, 18 years old, right? And this one girl really wants a teddy bear, so he like takes one of the girls by the hand, and he says to me, "You're in charge, kid. You get to run the show." And I was really excited because I was like, I got to run the show, right? I got to run the game, right? So I got my apron on and I got my balls in my hand. I'm like, come on up, play. And I couldn't get anybody to play, right? I didn't have the talk. Right, I couldn't get anyone to come up and play, right? And I kind of got, after a few minutes, I got kind of bored, right? And I was just like, I'm wondering, where's Mitch, right? So I abandoned my position, right? And I go around the back, right? And I'm like looking through some stuff and some boxes, and then I see sort of like through some boxes, and I'm like staring through the crack between two boxes, and Mitch is standing there, and this girl's fucking giving him a blowjob, right? She's just totally sucking his cock. And then I was 9 years old, and I was like, of course, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, what is she doing? Why is she doing that? Right?
Where was the other girl? She wasn't there as well.
I don't know what happened to her, but I definitely saw Mitch getting his knob fucking worked on, and then when it was all over, I remember he pulled this teddy bear. It was like a really shitty little panda, like a 10-inch panda bear, right? That was blue, and it had a torn ear, right? So the stuffing was like falling out of it, right? And it had a giant tire track across the front of it. It was like it was basically garbage. It was like garbage we couldn't put in the joint, right? It was just sitting in the truck. right? And he pulled it and he gave it to her, and she had it around her chest, between her tits, and she came out, and I was like, and I watched her like she was all proud, and she sucked a dick for a teddy bear.
That was brilliant.
That was my first sexual experience.
It didn't actually happen to you?
No, it didn't happen to me, but I was just like, what?
Oh, wow. Put that one in the bank, right?
Yeah, I was just like...
Did you ever try and replicate that trick?
No, like you mean take advantage of it, basically rape a teenager?
Yeah.
No,
you say, hey, anybody want a teddy bear that hasn't got any money? Anybody here hasn't got any money who's 15 and beautiful and, you might want a teddy bear.
That's all. Nowadays, it's porn. Basically, they have teenage girls sucking dick for money on camera. That was 1970s.
Brilliant. I can imagine the fashions as well.
Yeah, there was, but I will never forget Mitch. Watching Mitch get his dick sucked.
I wonder what Mitch is doing now.
That was in Brandon, Manitoba.
So he's probably quite old now, Mitch.
Yeah, he was older than me, so he'd be 50 now.
Yeah.
Telling people the story about some girl who sucked his knob for
in Brandon, Manitoba.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, some farm girl.
Small town.
Yeah.
Fuck. Well, at least she didn't get pregnant. That's great, Eric.
So that's the sad truth. That's my sad reality. Well, that's been quite an episode.
That's a fantastic episode. Very juicy, lots of content. I loved it.
My mother loves the Pope.
Yeah, you say.
She really loves him, and anything negative I say about the Pope, whether I'm serious or even tongue in cheek, she's just like.
She's old school Catholic. She's not new school liberal.
No.
She's not like one of these people who've just discovered the Pope.
She thinks the new Pope is just awesome.
Yeah, she's not having a dalliance.
She's going to have to pray for you.
Yeah, she's praying for me because I, take the piss.
Yeah, she's praying for you because you don't believe in new Pope.
No, it's like new Coke. New Pope.
Exactly.
It's Pope Zero.
It's Pope Zero. That's exactly what the new Pope is.
He's less sugar and more poison.
Yeah. And in contrast, Donald Trump is like 1900 sarsaparilla.
Yeah, I like Trump just because he there's no hiding what he is.
No, he hasn't got any policies. He's got no filter. I like him. We've said before, he's merely the man who says the obvious. He states that the emperor has no clothes.
Trump is like a chocolate bar. I buy the chocolate bar. I know that the chocolate bar is not good for me. I know that I'm not fooling myself. There's no nutritional value to this chocolate bar. I'm eating the chocolate bar. And then I'm like, yeah, I ate a chocolate bar. That's just straight up what it is.
It made me feel good at the time. I feel a bit shitty now.
Yeah. But like, I knew what I was getting myself into. Whereas the new Pope is like a fruit roll-up. It says the word fruit on the package, right? But there's nothing fruit. There's no fruit in him, right? There's nothing. It's all petroleum. It's all fake content. It's all fake flavoring. There's nothing about this guy that is what he says he is. But somehow I've told myself it's better for me than a chocolate bar. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I couldn't think of a better analogy. Thank you for bringing those food-based analogies to this program, Eric. That's fantastic.
So you know what? Trump is like a chocolate bar with a bit of nut in it.
Right. Bit of nut. I like that. Bit of fruit and nut.
Yeah. And maybe some, not
some
even
raisins and almonds.
Maybe some if you want to call raisin a fruit,
right? Well, it is. It's a dried fruit.
It's semi-dried, fruity thing.
Well, it's also an apt way of describing Donald Trump and where he is in his life.
Yeah, he's a bit of fruit and nut. Whereas the Pope, there's nothing about him that's real. He's a fruit roll-up. They mashed up some fruit and they put it in a jar, put the jar away, and then they rolled out this like fake material and they call it fruit. And
okay, I like to think of it like this, and that is that the global elite, the deep state, turned around and said, "Okay, let's see your candidates for Pope." And they had this brochure and they could flick through. And then they all sat around this table and they go, we like this guy. Yeah, no, this guy can definitely help our agenda.
He'll toe our line.
No, you know what? We can resell this message in a different way with this guy. All the other guys, it's just the same as the old popes. There's nothing new about this. We need a new angle.
Meet the new Pope, same as the old Pope.
We've got a big market out there and we need to tap it. And I think that's another way of describing what's going on.
Meanwhile, Ratzinger, who's still a pope
Yep.
and still alive,
Pope 1.0.
right? And he's like, but he's like, his body was too frail to withhold the image of Satan within him, right? Like that, like his skin was peeling back and revealing.
Too transparent, you're saying?
Yeah, like, well, his body was breaking down, and you could see the cracks where Satan was coming through, like you know what I'm saying? Like, so they had to hide him because, like, he was showing
signs of wear.
That's right. Even though he's still kind of like, being kept alive demonically.
Right.
Whereas the new pope, his body is still strong enough to withhold sort of like the evil soul that's inside of him.
It's just a new medium for the message. And I think on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thanks for having me. Until next time.
So I've been Ivan Penaluna.
I've been Eric Amber.
And I'm Pure Dracula.
Thank you.